Now, I am going to take a break now, and the co-host for the show, Tina Workman, is going to be discussing a TV show that has been making a lot of noise called Don't Look Up.
It's a film, actually, Crispin.
It's a film.
Very
Sorry.
modern thing. Yes, it's.
So I don't know about films. I only know about little cartoons. No, I'm joking.
It's very funny. I'm bringing in Tam Dean Burn, who's a actor, Scottish actor, who's watched the film for us. He's was at the COP Out 26 and has been involved in climate change, because this film is obviously quite an obvious satire on climate change.
Thanks for having me on, Tina, and thanks to everybody. Happy New Year, everybody. This has been a big encouragement I've found for a new year, taking part and listening to all that's been going on. I think it's been a great event, and I'm also really pleased that I've discovered this film through Tina asking. Because that has sparked me a lot this year as well. It's called Don't Look Up, but I'm surprised in a way they could have called it Just Look Up, because it's a sort of another one of these binary situations. The people are being asked to either just look up and see the comet coming and try and deal with that, or else what is a very funny scene, it is like a sort of Trumpian outdoor event. Meryl Streep's the president, and she's like a cross between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And they all arrive at this idea, don't look up. Ludicrous, but it does sort of put across all this sort of anti-science nature of things that are going on so much just now. But I would have expected, in a sense, for it to be called Just Look Up, because there is a direct tie-in through Leonardo DiCaprio, especially, with a sort of attempt to mobilize people. There is this organization called Count Us In, which the film is trying to lead people towards, to be counted in, to be taking steps to deal with climate and to carry out climate action. There's 12 points there in particular. It is the sort of way that things have generally been apart from John at the beginning of having a plant-based diet. I do like a bit of liver myself, John, but generally I do like to lightly cook it. But yeah, there are these 12 steps you're meant to take that are very individualist. It denies really what we've all been talking about here, solidarity. You know, there is no solidarity put down. And there's no mention about like what the children are doing. There's one tiny little scene near the beginning where Mark Rylance's character, who's like sort of Steve Jobs, the head of Apple that died, that he's doing a presentation with a new phone that can tell how you're feeling. And he has 3 children on stage. And one of the children say, "Can I say something?" And Mark Rylance kind of says, "No." And they just carry on, and they take the phones back from the kids. But that really struck me, because what I've picked up on, particularly from COP26, was the importance of seeing what children are doing right now. You know, I've looked on this Zoom and saw we're all here, and by and large, well, there's no any children here at all. There's not many young people at all. But I think our most important thing we can do is to support Greta and the young people. They have Fridays for Future. If that took off, where kids went on strike on a Friday, that would be a first real step towards this type of solidarity that we get, and towards these people becoming these children of the revolution. Anyway, you can have a look in my article. I think Tina's going to post on that. But I love the movie. I loved it. Yeah,
I thought it's very funny. I mean, I have criticisms of the film, which I'm sure everybody does, my criticism would be that, there is an implication that if only, yes, I'm sorry, there's a few spoilers, but, watch the film. If only, Meryl Streep had gone through with her plan of sending up a few rockets and destroy it, capitalism basically could have solved it, could have solved the climate crisis, which is my criticism. It's got a sort of greenish Leonardo DiCaprio agenda to it. They could do it if they just really concentrated. Whereas I think, it actually needs a whole different system to deal with the climate change. However, the bourgeois media, and I was going to touch on that, the establishment press, they all hate it. They all hate it, but for totally different reasons. I think they're pretending, especially The Guardian, which was a very funny review, they're criticizing the film for not being subtle. If you want to convince the Trumpites, the Trump supporters and the Bojo supporters, you have to do it more subtle. You can't have a big satire like that and being hit over the head with a hammer. What do you think about that kind of criticism?
Yeah, well, I thought there was one tiny little bit again in that big Trumpian rally where Meryl Streep's son in it, who's her chief of staff, where I won't bring the spoiler, the final spoiler for him into it, but it does mean watching through the credits, watch right to the end of the movie. It is going to go into the cinema, I believe, and it is a big movie. It will look fantastic on a big screen, I'm sure. And it has got a brilliant jazz soundtrack, which is really surprising, really brassy. As a member of the Glasgow community brass band, Brass Eye, I really reveled in. But there's one point where our chief of staff says, look, there's all of you, the working classes, and there's us, the cool rich, and there's them. And it just gets left hanging there of who them is. So yes, it is crude in loads of ways, but I thought being able to sort of flip between funny, really being funny, but then also quite poignant and sad, and it's sort of at the end it does then go I'm just going to try and avoid the spoilers then, but a religious element comes into it, but not a sort of it is a sort of almost like a grassroots faith aspect comes into it. And I thought that was really interesting as well. And I believe that Adam Mackay, the director's mother, is a born-again Christian. But there is going to be these sorts of things coming up when we're really faced with it. But I thought that my biggest criticism was that the masses have like a walk-on, just look up or don't look up part to play, rather than them. It's left to capitalism, but hugely critical of the politicians and of the Steve Jobs type character as well, that these are not going to be able to be solved technically. They look fantastic, all of their rockets to break up this thing, but it fails. And so I thought it was a great critique of capitalism and of the politicians in that way. So
I agree. Yeah. It's very enjoyable. Comrade, if you have Netflix, watch it. It's really worth. Crispin, back to you. Thank you, Tam.
Oh, back to me. Well, thank you, Tam, and thank you. That was really interesting. I like to watch that